You've just jumped inside the Pull Bag. Join TFG1Mike and the rest of the comic reading crew here at the GCRN as they make their great escape into comics. From DC, Marvel, IDW, Boom Studios, Zenescope, and more, we have everything you want to read right here. Transformers comics? Yeah, we cover that. He-Man? Yeah, sure. DC superheroes like Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and Batman Beyond? Yep, we have those too. How about TMNT from IDW and I Hate Fairyland from Image Comics? Yeah, we have all that here. Plus, so much more. It's all inside the Pull Bag here on the Geekcast Radio Network. So without any further ado, it's time to talk about the comics we are reading right now here inside the Pull Bag.
Not yet.
There we go. There we go.
Now
There it is. All right. Everybody be professional. Yay. Yeah, because I have to actually look at the questions. That's why I'm like, no video. I just do audio. All right. God, I haven't done one of these in a while. You'd think I'd remember how to do my own podcast. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up.
Maybe you need coffee.
I need to make you some coffee too.
No. All right.
I make good coffee.
I'm sure you do. I'm just, ever since, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, I just got off the coffee kick. Just don't like the taste of it anymore. I don't know. Maybe I haven't had good coffee in a while. Anyway, all right. Hello and welcome to the Pull Bag. This is episode 383, and this is not the episode 383 that you were expecting, because 383 originally was supposed to be Image Comics I Hate Fairyland Volume 4, the final installment of that Scotty Young masterpiece. Sadly, that is postponed until further notice. I am, of course, TFG1Mike. This is the Pull Bag Origins episodes, where we get the story of how people got into or out of comics. And today I am, it's all hail to the Hales, because I have Kendra and Edward Hale with me today. Hello.
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 Yes. And continuing on with the interviews for Origins, we have the new 25-question format, which Kendra actually helped with some of that. Thank you so much, because I was like going out of my mind. I'm like, what questions do I ask? How can I change this? How can I make it more in depth? I'm like, I can't think of anything anymore. All right, so how this is going to go is I'll ask a question. Obviously, ladies first, because we are gentlemen around here in the answers. So Kendra will answer first, then Ed will answer after that. Where you might have heard these lovely people is on Dark Knight News' podcast. You both write for Gothic Bite, right? Or is it just you that does that, Kendra?
No, we both do. Edward does a lot of the game reviews, and I do a lot of the, because I'm actually partnered with Gothic Bite. Myself and Alexa Wayne both make the executive decisions for that. So I do a lot of the behind the scenes with editing articles and with helping get things set up for what our themes are going to be, all the fun corporate stuff.
Yay! So they're around, folks. You can find their stuff everywhere, and I'm sure I'll have a bunch of links in the show notes for the post on the website for GCRN as well. So getting started, did you grow up reading comics, and at what age do you first remember reading or noticing comics, Kendra?
Oh gosh. All right. So my story is a little bit different than probably what you're going to hear from Ed, and what you would probably hear from most people who read comics. I started out when I was about 9 or 10, and my first comics were Chaos comics. So I started out with Evil Ernie, Lady Death, all of that line, even up to and including the ones with Undertaker and the ICP Saga in Hell. So that is really where I started, and it wasn't until DC started doing stuff like the Blackest Night that I became someone who read more syndicated. I'd read some of their trades, like still in my top 5 to this day, Kingdom Come and Marvels are two of my absolute favorites. Sin City and stuff like that became part of it. But it wasn't until I hit my 20s that I fully started paying attention to the comic world. Edward, what about you?
My first instance with a comic book, I was 5 years old. I went into People's Drugstore with my grandmother. She had to do something, and they had one of the old school spindle racks and had all the newest issues out. And she bought me 3 comic books: Batman, Thor, and the Avengers. And after that moment, I was done. I mean, to this day, 44 years old, I am an avid reader of comic books and collector of all manner of action figures and paraphernalia and stuff like that. So, yeah, lifetime of comic books brought on by a visit to a drugstore with my grandma.
For those that don't know, kids, a spinner rack in a drugstore was something where comics used to be sold back in the olden days. Because a lot of people are like, drugstore? We usually get our stuff on the corner. Yeah, that is awesome. That it's, you guys have 2 very different, distinct ways of how you first noticed them. Now, Ed, you just said your grandmother was kind of the one that, she took you to the store and she bought you the comics, but were there anyone else in your lives as kids that were, a parent, a friend, or whomever was just, said, here's this comic, and here who set you on that path?
Ooh. That one's a little bit of a loaded question for me. My uncle was actually the one who supported my love of comics and who is actually the one who introduced me to comics, because the ones that I started reading were the ones that he already had. So, my first instance of actually seeing any kind of comic-esque artwork wasn't in a comic book. It was in one of those art books that you would have that were like coffee table art. And they were the super hyper, like, I don't mean to say like they were bad, but they were the super hyper sexualized ones. So like the Princess of Mars style, or I'm Vallejo. Is that who it was? I believe his name is Vallejo. Is the one. Vallejo. Boris Vallejo is the first one I was introduced to. So I didn't actually pick up a comic until I got curious about Lady Death, and he supported that. Sadly, there's been a massive falling out for good reason. But after that, it was really just me picking up books on my own on things that would capture me, whether it was going to be the cover art was absolutely mind-blowing, and I had to read what it was about because I had to know what caused this image. Or I would recognize later, I would see artists that I knew or writers that I knew that I was like, yeah, I'm going to gravitate towards you guys. I've already read you. I know that you're an amazing person and can do absolutely no wrong with me in a comic book, so I would start to pick those up. What about you, Ed?
Again, my grandma, she up until my late 20s, she supported my comic habit single-handedly, basically. I did go to the store with my dad every so often, but he didn't go to the local comic shops for comics. He went because they were the only ones who sold Fangora magazine. And, in our area at the time. And, he's telling me to go look at, stuff on the wall while he's finding his new magazine and talking to his buddy or whatever. And that's what I did. And actually for 17 years, I went to the same comic store in Virginia Beach. So.
Very cool.
But my grandma, she actually read some of the books that I read. She was always into Batman. She thought he was the coolest thing in the world. The old Adam West TV show was always on in the background if it was on TV. If she wasn't watching her soaps, she'd be watching something silly like that. But, honestly, out of everybody in my family, my grandmother was the only one that nurtured my love of comic books. So.
Well, you know what? It only takes one person to help you get into the hobby, the fandom, the whatever you want to call this thing we call comics.
The life.
The life.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I mean, think about it though. Because when I was a kid, we were shunned for liking comic books.
And now it's the whole fad. I mean, it's not even really a fad. It's
the entire world loves comic books now, thanks to feature-length films and stuff and such. But I'm one of those kids that sat underneath a tree reading the newest issue of Batman, and I was like, man, that would look so cool in the movies if they did it, you know. And now here we are today, where people that were literally hiding the fact that they read comic books are sitting there like front and center, like, bitch, I've been doing this for years. What are you talking about? You act like you saw Iron Man in theaters. Golf clap, buddy. I was there when it was introduced. What's up?
and I did look it up. It was Boris Vallejo. So I mean that kind of sets the stage for me as a person, I guess, because my first introduction was with fine art versus the actual what we would see as comics. I mean, but to think of it now, I mean, some of the covers that we get are absolutely fine art. So
oh yeah. Anyone that says comics and comic books are not an art form, get the hell out. Just
amen.
That's just not even.
I don't need that kind of negativity in my life.
No.
Exactly. It's so funny when you said you were under the tree with the comic, and I'm like, oh my god, he's got that Batman comic inside of a Gray's Almanac.
No, this unfortunately, I smacked myself a little bit for doing it, but it was rolled up in my back pocket.
Oh,
yeah. He was young.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah, he didn't know any better just yet, but he learned, so that's good.
Yes, I did.
All right, so when you were kids, which characters were your favorites? Now, Ed, you've mentioned Batman, but Kendra, what about you?
Oh, fuck. When I was a kid, it really was Lady Death. I adored the story of hope and getting to see this style of writing that, because for me, I was a reader. I was an avid novel reader. I mean, I was grounded most of my childhood, so I was reading books like it was nothing. And I had worked my way up when I was 9 and 10 into the world of Stephen King and had realized just what writing could be. So to move over into something like Lady Death was actually more of a lateral move, because that's exactly how they treat their books. They are not like any way condescending to their audience. They trust their intelligence with those. And I've always loved Brian Pulido for that, because Lady Death it should have been bigger than it was, to be completely fair. It was amazing writing. The art in there was absolutely stunning. So for me, Lady Death will and for always ever be one of my favorite characters. And then you can go on your Batman rant. Go on, Ed.
Yeah. I mean, since day one, minute one, issue one in my hand, it's always been the Dark Knight. I mean, I've diversified a lot since then. I mean, I read a lot of different stuff, but
right,
the tone, the art. I mean, God rest his soul, but if you give me any issue of a Norm Brayfogle Batman comic book, I am 10 years old sitting under that tree again. And
wow,
I mean it's just Batman, dude. I don't know why. It's just I guess he inspired me a little bit, because I actually got a job because of him, which is really kind of a lame story when I think about it, but same
Does
time,
Facebook know about this?
No. This was Facebook days. This was before Facebook actually took off. But my sister was getting me a job at Chick-fil-A, and I had to go in for the interview. And one of the questions during the interview was, "Who's your hero and why?" And usually they look for, your mom or your dad or Jesus or, some popular actor. And I looked Lady Dead in the face and I said, Batman. She's like, okay. And she kind of giggled and she's like, why Batman? And I said, because he shows that you could be the best that you can be. just with strength and determination alone. And she just kind of sat there for a minute, and she cocked her head inside, and she was like, "Welcome to the team." I was like, "Okay, sweet." So Batman got me a job.
Very cool. All right, the age-old question, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to because, hello. DC or Marvel?
Son of a biscuit.
Yeah, that's
All right, so that's not fair. First of all,
Hey, it's a question everybody answers.
I know. I know, and they probably, well, not everybody probably struggles like me, but
Oh, everybody struggles with this.
I'm not going to struggle.
of course you're not. You already know. I mean, if I were to look at it in the light of what I do for a living, then yes, DC is ultimately the answer that's going to be there because I literally am immersed in DC content day in and day out. But that being said, I do think that with Marvel, readers get really, really great stories. And that in some cases, Marvel has been better at being completely justified with their characters. They do absolutely a lot of respect to their characters. So for me, yes, DC is my favorite because that's where I live and work. But Marvel still has a corner of my heart, like it pays rent. So I'm both, and I don't care if I'm not allowed to do that. Fuck the rules. I say both.
Man, if only Tony Stark was paying that rent.
Right? I'd be okay with that. Come on, Mr. Stark.
Simple answer. DC.
Yeah, I was about to say, I knew what yours was gonna be.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the reasoning behind it, okay? I, like I said, I diversified from just Batman, and I started reading everything. Green Lantern, Flash, Superman, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Teen Titans, the whole shebang.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, at the same time, I was picking up some Marvel stuff. I mean, the old Claremont Lee X-Men issues, those were astonishing. But when the good writers left, unfortunately, you're filled with a void of crap in Marvel's lineage. And
Mm-hmm.
I also saw a cycle of their stories repeating themselves.
Both sides have that. So.
They do. Don't get me wrong. Crisis.
New 52.
No, New 52 was
New
just
52
bullshit.
is the first time that a comic company has had to apologize for making changes. I'm sorry.
Well, I understand that, but it's not repeating stories. But, I mean, Marvel had a lot of good shit. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the X-Men were great.
Ghost Rider.
I love the X-Men. Ghost Rider, oh my god. I picked up every single solitary issue of the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider run solely because it started out with Mark Texiera artwork. And, oh my god, glow-in-the-dark cover for issue 15 was astonishing.
Yes.
It hung on my wall for about 5.5 years before I had to sell off my collection.
And you know what? That's another thing that Chaos did that I wish had gotten bigger. And I'm sorry because I'm like totally like bouncing off the walls. But since we're seeing this as a conversation, they did the foil covers first.
Yeah. And then Image kind of like, we're Image, here's foil covers.
I really do think that, and I hope that Brian, I'll tag you in this so that you hear me. But I really do think that Chaos Comics was well before its time. And that could be said of a lot of different comic studios. Speaking of which, Milestone, fuck yes, I'm so glad you're coming back. That was one of the best announcements of DC fandom. Supremely excited. But Chaos, they did a lot of things that you see right now being super prevalent and across the board, whether it's indie, whether it's the big companies, and for whatever reason they couldn't keep their grounding, and that made me so sad. We miss you. Finances. I'm so sad that they're gone, because if anybody deserved to come out of that with the characters that they had, with the writers and the artists that they had at that time, Chaos deserved to be here.
I don't remember the artist's name that was doing Lady Death, but I think he passed away.
That would make me ultimately sad.
That did the original couple runs, miniseries or whatever. I think he did pass away.
But continue with your DC. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, you're fine. No, I love DC. So next question.
All right.
Dude, curio cabinet sitting
This is
across the
true.
room. Okay, and she's got a Harley Quinn curio cabinet sitting across the room too.
Stephen Hughes.
Yeah.
Aww.
But yeah, he did pass away.
Well,
Dang.
rest in peace, because you were loved, sir. Your artwork, even if it's just me screaming off the podcast.
Actually, I'm gonna add a
You were
little
loved.
side anecdote here. With the advent of Facebook, I actually got to talk to Norm Brayfogle before he passed away. And that was probably one of the biggest honors of my life. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. Because I actually kept running into the room with her, and I'm like, Norm Brayfogle added me on Facebook. And she's like, what? Norm Brayfogle added me on Facebook. You know, imagine a 38, 40-year-old man sitting here, like, jumping up and down like a 6-year-old, you know? Like, oh my God!
That's really us in a freaking bow, though.
Well, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, though, as long as you're smart, intelligent people and respectful about it, social media has given us access that we would have never, ever had 30 to 40 years ago.
Yeah, but I
Is-
get you, but there's some downfalls, man. There is definitely some heroes.
There are, but I'm just saying, like, you can, if I want to reach out to insert name here, whomever that is, I can do that as long as I do it in a respectful way, to the point of, like, if I asked Paul Dini for an interview.
Nice.
I don't blame you for doing that. I would have done the same
He
thing.
declined, but, you know, that's fine, and I
Well, that's an
respect.
opportunity years ago that people who do podcasts like us wouldn't have been able to do.
Exactly.
You would have had to go through all the paperwork and the red tape and gotten a hold of the manager and then waited for forever. And
Well, it was like we're on Hunnick and we got to interview Kevin Conrad.
yeah,
Dude, I was geeking out the whole time. The thing is, I've been following his career since, like, X-Force. And when he jumped on Spawn with Tony Daniel, you know, I was nerding out the whole time, and he's just like, you know, you're a really nice guy. I'm gonna add you on Facebook.
Nah.
Oh my God! I met Ethan Van Sciver at a convention that we went to in Indianapolis, and I couldn't speak because this guy invented Cyberfrog, and I don't give a shit about anything else that he does. He did Cyberfrog, and I was geeking out. So, but that's me.
All right. What other publishers do you enjoy reading? Now, I know we've talked about some of your favorites, but what are some of the other ones as well?
Oh gosh, I really enjoy a lot of what Dark Horse does. I am in love with the early days of Xenoscope. It's kind of tilted more towards TNA more recently than my taste really likes, but not that that's bad. I mean, they definitely have a target market, so I can't knock them.
Yeah.
And they definitely sell comics, so I can't knock them. But it's just not for me anymore. I say the early days because at that point, Xenoscope had amazing storytelling, and I just haven't been there since they sidewind into like 15 different universes, and it became too much for me to keep up with. But Dark Horse has a lot of good stuff. Boom Comics, I've started taking a look at. Boom Studios, Image, have a big part of my heart for Image, and then I think that's everything. I mean, we've got a couple indie studios like Apotheosis Studios that did the last Amazon, and that's really the most recent indie story that I've gotten a chance to sit down and take a look at and read in whole, and was completely mind blown. There was no, in any way, I didn't see it being an indie studio, and they deserve every props that they've gotten, because the last Amazon was absolutely wicked. And I think that's it for me. What about you?
Obviously, I read the big two. Dark Horse, especially the older stuff, like the Star Wars stuff that they did, was amazing. I'll lay my hand on the Bible saying that Dark Empire is still one of my favorite Star Wars stories of all times. I think I was solely responsible for Image comic books getting as big as they did.
Wait, what?
I bought every single issue of everything that was launched, including the variant covers, foil covers, and special fold-out poster covers and shit like that. I had a lot of disposable income at that point, and I decided to blow it all on Image comic books. I literally, Spawn. It was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Let me check out every fucking thing else that you're putting out. I read smaller publishers. I mean, who did the Beast of Burden?
Beast of Burden is Dark Horse.
Okay, I didn't know about
Evan Dorkin and Jill Thompson. Absolutely amazing. Still recommend.
Yeah, she just recommended that to me recently, and I crushed out the first trade, and that was astonishing. So, right back to Dark Horse. I mean, you can't do wrong with guys who got Sin City in their pocket. So
honestly, though, there's a reason that my nickname is Devourer, because I will literally devour anything put in front of me. It doesn't always mean it's good, but I will still read it.
Yeah, I tend to, I don't know, like for me, if I was, because I haven't done my own Origins episode since the new questions or whatever else, and last time I did it, we didn't have this many questions, but we've always had the DC versus Marvel question, and for me, it isn't about that. It isn't about picking a side. It's about the characters that I love, like Batman, like Nightwing, like Batgirl, like Iron Man, like Captain America. It depends on the character for me, especially when it comes to some of the indie publishers. Like I read, we have a whole plethora of episodes of this show dedicated to Xenoscope's Robin Hood series, because I actually got to interview Pat Shan twice. I actually interviewed him twice, but I had him on for a special episode where we talked about the way of the comic book and how the industry was changing. This was before, this is before how the world really changed now, but this is a couple of years ago. And, I've read some of the other stuff. I've read the, like the Red Agent stuff and things like that from Xenoscope. But for me, the number one for the licensed stuff is all about IDW. It isn't always great, but they gave us a Back to the Future comic book series, even though it's not currently running or anything like that, but they gave us a really good Back to the Future comic series. Nobody needs a fourth film from Back to the Future. The films are what they are, and the comic book series is more than enough. And they've got a bunch of other stuff over at IDW as well.
I read a bit of their stuff. Everything that I read was pretty good. I think we have a couple of their hardcovers in the bedroom, actually. We just got done organizing our trades and hardcover collection and getting it all shelved up and everything like that.
Very cool. Their IDW, I know everyone's like, oh, the original Eastman and Laird Turtles comics. Yes, they were great at the time. I did not get in on the comics. I was 4 when they launched that, so by the time the cartoon came along, I was 7. But IDW... Since IDW has had the Turtles license, that book, it doesn't matter if it's the main ongoing, if it's a mini series or whatever they're doing over there, they need to keep doing it, because the IDW Turtles verse is by far the best incarnation of Turtles that has ever been.
Oh yeah, that's what's up. I did read a couple of the OG TMNT stuff, the old black, white, and red stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think I got into it about the same time everybody else did, is with the cartoon. I mean, it just kind of washed off me when I read the comic, and then I saw the cartoon. I'm like, I must have their action figures.
Exactly.
Let me go spend an enormous amount of money on this.
And Dynamite. I've been reading Dynamite lately because they've got the Nancy Drew.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's very cool. Those action figures, man.
I know it's DC.
DC's doing the Joe Hill
I believe so, yeah. Sorry, sidebar.
Mm-hmm. All right, so another age-old question. Print or digital, which one, both, either or, and why?
Kendra.
Why do I have to go first? I hate going first.
You're the lady.
Because we're
I'm the
chivalrous.
lady. Because I'm the lady.
Because we're gentlemen.
That's right.
I'm gonna go with both, and the reason being is because working with Dark Knight News and with DC Comics News, that's really the easiest way for them to get the comic to us because we get them beforehand, like usually weeks before they go on print sale. So sometimes we don't have an option but to go digital. But if I have my choice and I have a say in it, then I go full print and I go up to my comic shop and I have a folder that they pull for me, and I have a love for that because there's really, like, I do inking as well, and for me there's really nothing better than the sound of an ink pen on the piece you're working on. Like, just the mood, the atmosphere, the sound, the smell of the ink. And it's the same thing with the comic book, holding it in your hand and being able to turn the pages and just to immerse yourself into that world. It's different than it is with digital. So for me, it's both. But if I have a choice, it's always going to be traditional. I'm always going to want print. You?
I'm going to be a butthead and say I agree with everything she said and second and carry that because I have an extensive collection of comic books digitally on a terabyte hard drive. Roughly about 10,000 comic books on there. And we don't have as many, I guess you could say, physical issues. But
not for lack of trying.
Yeah, but not for lack of trying. But I mean, there's that 10-year-old under the tree again holding that new comic book in his hand. It's so impersonal when you think about it being a tablet, or a phone or something like that. All right, so yeah, I'm both, but if I have to hardcore lock down which one I want the physical copy in my hand.
So. I've said this before in other episodes of this show, but Marvel ruined me on physical copies. I'm sitting there holding Welcome Back, Frank, and I fall asleep because the book is too heavy for me to hold to read. So, and I'm not talking about one issue of Welcome Back, Frank. I'm talking about the big-ass thing that has all 12 issues of that series in it.
So you got the omni, right?
Yeah, it's like an omnibus or an absolute.
Oh, yeah.
Now, those bitches are heavy.
And then, it wasn't because I didn't like the story that I fell asleep. It was because my hand fell asleep, and then the rest of my body was like, okay, if you're just going to drop the book, we'll just fall asleep in this chair right here.
See, that for me would be like, if I were to do something with an omnibus or with an absolute edition, something that's massive like that, it's either me sitting at a table so I have something to hold the weight, or I'm laying in bed and, propping myself up all nice and happy, laying down, reading the book.
Yeah, see, the problem with that is, for me, and this is not just reading, it's like, literally, I will be laying here like I'm right now. I'll be playing a game. Be playing Candy Crush, Soda Saga, or something, and I will I play a game called Homescapes, and literally fell asleep and won a level at the same time that I fell asleep playing the level.
That's fucking talent.
I fell asleep moving the things that are supposed to be moving and getting the goal. I fall asleep. Next thing I know, hey, guess what? You won. I'm like,
yay!
Yay. So for me, the key with digital is, and I know everybody's like, oh, digital services, you may buy it. They may say you own it, but you don't really own it, yada, yada, yada. Hey, as long as it's still there, and as long as I've already paid for it and I don't have to pay for it again, I'm more than fine. Comixology.com, Comixology is everything to me because once I found their guided view, I cannot read comics without that ever again because my vision. Because of my vision, because of how I love how the storyboarding aspect of it is and how they zoom in and zoom out and whatever else. And yeah, it's just so great. But I do agree. Eventually I would if we had more storage, which we don't. I would love to have a hardcover collection of the Turtles comics from IDW, but and I still respect print and I still love print as well, but as far as actually reading the interiors, it has to be digital.
DC app has a pretty good one of those too for reading comic books, singling panels out and whatnot. We got that when she had to start reviewing Harley Quinn, and I'm sitting over there in the background reading Batman.
Yeah.
Or catching up on Dark Knight's Metal or something like that. So.
I mean, there's definitely a respect for it. Don't get our answers twisted. It's just.
Oh no, absolutely.
I'm just like uber old school, I guess. So I don't know.
I used to be until the Punisher broke me. All right. Who are some of your favorite comics writers and why?
Why do I have a feeling that this was one of mine?
Probably is.
Damn it. Fuck you, Kendra. There's so many. Shit. I'm gonna limit myself to like 3 or 4.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So first of all, one of my favorite writers right now is definitely Evan Dorkin. Dark Horse Comics, Beasts of Burden. Literally all it took was me reading the first one of Beasts of Burden, Animal Rights, and it literally jumped to my number 3 spot on my favorite comics of all time. For a writer to be able to make me cry and pause and just have to take a break from the comic itself, absolute kudos. There's not more I can say to kind of relay how important that is to me as a comic reader. If you can viscerally change my mood just from an issue of your comic, you've got me for life. So Evan Dorkin is probably my number 1 right now, just because his way of writing is so personal, and the fact that he and any artist that come onto his work are so passionate about what they do makes me as a reader even more dedicated to seeing them succeed. Number 2 is Cami Garcia. Cami Garcia is the one who is responsible right now for Joker Harley Criminal Sanity. Mm-hmm. So DC. She is fucking-nomical. She is absolutely astounding with the way that she is able to create worlds, and very visceral. I mean, the woman has worked from everything from X-Files to CSI to doing comics, to doing Harley and Joker, and it's literally one of the most fun comics I've had a chance to take a look at doing reviews for. So I'm really glad that I worked through Dark Knight News, so I have the chance to play with that, because it's worth it, and it has made her one of my favorites. Jeff Lemire is another one of my favorites for DC. That man is in everything right now for DC. I mean, his hands are everywhere, and I love it, because he's done Joker Killer Smile, which is morphed into Batman Smile Killer. He's doing the Question run right now, and just seeing how versatile he is as a writer and is able to literally put himself in the shoes of any character that he takes on and make it believable is fucking crazy. And it's enjoyable. It's so much fun. I recommend any series that he is the writer on, because he will definitely take you for a wild ride, and he will lead you by your throat and not let go.
Very cool.
If we're to go to old school, I am a super toss-up between Mark Waid and Jeff Johns. Because both of them hold very, very special places in my heart.
They both gave us magic.
They did. They both gave us magic, and that is absolutely why. I mean, with Mark Waid, my love for him began with Kingdom Come, and I've never come back from it. I was devastated for life. And with Jeff Johns, what hasn't he touched that hasn't been fucking brilliant? So those are mine. I limited myself before.
Let's see.
4.5.
I'm going to start off by the man who single-handedly reignited my love of Batman after a long stay away from the character, and that's Scott Snyder.
Yes.
The things that him and Greg Capullo did on Batman, New 52 or not, was mind-numbingly amazing. Old school Batman, Alan Grant.
Yes.
Him and Norm Brayfogle defined Batman for me. Kurt Busiek, I loved him, especially his work on Marvels. Mark Waid, I was reading him before and after Kingdom Come. And the man is the most polite person I've ever met in my life, meeting him in person at a con one time to get him to sign a comic book.
Yeah.
Chuck Dixon, I mean, a lot of the old schools, you know, Chris Claremont, him and Jim Lee on X-Men or Uncanny X-Men, good Lord. I mean, just stop. You know, some of the best X-Men comic books ever created were penned by that man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could sit here for like another hour and a half just
right?
listing off names of incredible talent that I've worshipped since I was, 6 years old.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Sam Humphries. I have one more. Sam Humphries, who is writer for Harley Quinn. I would be so fucking remiss if I didn't bring up Sam. Sam single-handedly made sure that I came back into the Harley fold after Amanda Connors and Jimmy Palmiotti had started the rebirth, basically, of Harley and did an amazing job at it. Sam took over the reins for the series that just ended with 75, and he single-handedly made me love Harley again. He made her a in-depth character who stood on her own and took no fucking shits. Loved it. So I think that's where I'm going to stop this with Sam.
I'm going to stop with one more guy, and that's Todd McFarlane.
Yes, damn it!
Because of Spawn. I mean, he went from being the Hulk, Batman, Spider-Man artist guy to creating a conglomerate corporation built around one fucking character and still found time to write, 150 issues of the ongoing fucking series. And it was amazing because, I mean, good Lord, dude. I mean, Spawn 1 to 50 was brilliant, and he was part of every damn issue of that. So, but yeah, I'll stop there.
There you go. Yeah, they're people can say what they want to say about New 52, but without New 52, we would not have, at least in my personal opinion, the single greatest run of a Batgirl run ever by Gail Simone.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen to that.
And then obviously Kyle Higgins on Nightwing, because everybody loves Dick.
Now, I was really impressed with the initial run on Nightwing. I was kind of blown away by it. My brother-in-law is like a super Nightwing fan, and obviously because I brought up Chuck Dixon, how can I not talk about Nightwing? But I mean,
yeah.
It was some good shit.
Well, and my hate,
really
I don't really have hate. I don't have hate. I have disdain, which stems from disappointment. So New 52 wasn't horrible for every character. There were some characters who, with the New 52, were either breathed new life into or got a chance to shine absolutely stunningly. You know, they had haunting moments that touched their fans. There were moments of greatness. But then there were moments like with Wonder Woman, which was one of the ones that I was actually excited to see. And I started reading it and I was getting into it and I was like, oh, okay, so we're going back to the beginning with her. And there was one line. One line is all it took for me to close the book. And that was, what is ice cream?
I remember this too because I was there the day she read the hardcover of this. And she got to that line and she looked up at me and she's like, are you fucking kidding me? And then closed the book and she has never opened it since.
I haven't. I mean, that literally, I disappeared from comics from DC for a very long time. It wasn't until I picked back up with Harley doing the reviews for Dark Knight News that I even started looking into what DC had to offer after that. Because it tainted my view of anything that they could bring to the stage. Because for me, as a Wonder Woman fan, it just ruined it for me. I was like, how could you do that to her? Like, you just set her back 60, 80, how many years? And it was disrespectful for me. So it's not that I can't understand that there were good things that came out of New 52, because there were.
Batman.
Aquaman had a great run with New 52. But I don't think that they did the same justice for all of the characters, which is why it led to an apology.
Which is why it led to one of the greatest decisions that company ever made, was letting Dan DiDildo go.
Yes, it did.
Because
Oh, hold on.
I'm sorry, I don't know what his fascination. Yeah, I don't know what his fascination with killing Dick Grayson was all the time, but oh Lord,
Right?
thank God that's over.
Right?
Tropeville, occupation you, bro.
On somewhere with that shit. I love Grayson.
Like,
I love every iteration.
Like, okay, Batman is the quote-unquote father figure. He's the character you want to live up to be, but Dick Grayson, he's always been, at least as Nightwing, not necessarily as Robin, but as Nightwing, has always been the character that I see, not necessarily see myself as, but can relate to. Like, I can relate to Dick Grayson more in Kyle Higgins' New 52 run than I can Batman in Snyder's run. As much as I love Snyder's run, I never actually finished all of it. I got to go back and do that, but but it's you know, Batman is it's like, God, I'm gonna get so much guff for this, but I don't care.
Let it go.
It's Optimus Prime and Rodimus Prime. Optimus is the legend. Hot Rod / Rodimus is the new young kid character that comes in and, you know, lets Megatron kill the guy. Yeah, I know.
You got the power. My singing debut, gentlemen.
There you go, folks. Now at the London Philharmonic, Edward Hale.
Doing the theme song to Transformers.
You could open with a superstitious and cowardly lot.
Right?
Yep.
I am Batman. You got touch. I need a lot more hair for that. Hairband.
Gotta have the Farrah going on.
Stan Bush had a good head of hair back then, but he wasn't like no D. Snyder thing. Anyway. And yes, Kendra, this is all your fault.
I know.
No. The way that the questions are, this is all your fault. So, next question: what defines a good story to you?
Fuck me, dude. Literally. Yeah, you go first. I'll sit back.
I'm gonna go first on this.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give you an anecdote to explain good writing.
Okay.
All right. So this was several years back. My mom and I had just gone out, and she was dropping me off at work. And we had gone by the bookstore, and I had just purchased Absolute Kingdom Come.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to work, which was Burger King, and I was about an hour early. So I sat there with my headphones on, jamming out to whatever the hell I was listening to, and I'm reading Kingdom Come. Well, when it got to the scene in the book that I've read 400 billion times by that point, where the gulag has fallen and Superman's down and shit is hitting the fan, and then fucking Batman shows up with his people, I stood up in the middle of that fucking restaurant and cheered like I was in a damn movie. And that was Mark Waid, one of the best authors of all times. Literally, I could read it right now, and I'll fucking stand up and cheer when Batman shows up to save the day. I mean, that's amazing writing. I mean, if it really scares you, it's amazing writing. If it makes you cry, it's amazing writing. If it evokes an emotional response from you, that's amazing writing. And now I hand it over to Kendra.
Well, Before Kendra goes, I'll add this. It's kind of like I mentioned earlier with IDW and the Turtles, and how I personally think it's the best version of the Turtles that we've ever had. I didn't always feel that way, because when my buddy Joe, who actually does the Turtles comics episodes with me on this podcast, when he said go look them up on Comixology and whatever else and go check it out, and I'm like, okay. I've never been Red Bandana Turtles because, again, I grew up with the 87 cartoon. They're all 4 different colors. and I'm like, Joe, Red Bandanas, really? He goes, no, it's okay. Give it a chance. It'll make sense. It'll work. I read. This is like the first 3, 4, 5 issues, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, okay. This makes sense. This is good. Wow. That's okay. I got it. Great. Let's go. And we've been going ever since. Okay, Kendra, go ahead.
Oh gosh, what do I think makes a good story? I mean, mine really kind of echoes Ed's a bit, because if a story has the power to elicit any kind of emotion from you, or if it makes you think, if it makes you pause and you're able to connect with it, then I think that that's really what makes a good story. I mean, even if you're stepping into the world for the first time, let's say you're not an avid comic fan and you don't have, a favorite character, and you're just stepping into that world for the first time. I mean, if you're able to connect with that character and you're able to see them and you can understand them fully, if the story itself is able to touch you, that's what makes a good story. It's something that stays with you, that haunts you through the years. I mean, I really don't think that there's anyone that I couldn't sit down and ask about a book or a movie or a TV show or a song or, in this case, comics, who wouldn't be able to tell me one story that stayed with them throughout their lives. And they have memories that are associated with it, like with Ed and sitting under his tree, or with, everybody has one of those. And for me, it does stem a lot from the good storytelling. It means that the writer was able to connect with you for a brief moment in time and make a lasting impact. And that, to me, is that's what dictates a good story.
Absolutely. All right. What does a story have to draw you in?
I hate myself so much.
It's your own fault.
I know. What does a story have to draw me in? It has to have a good writer. I mean, it has to have, it has to lean away. Show me something that I haven't seen. Give me something from a character that absolutely melds with their character, but, is something new. Like, for example, with Sam Humphries in the Harley Quinn run, we've always, in every iteration prior, before Harley got the new look here recently with Amanda Connors and Jimmy Palmiotti, Harley was always the sidekick. And not that she wasn't her own person, but she was still associated in a way with Mr. J that she was second tier. She was never really seen as his partner. And it wasn't until we finally started seeing her break away from that toxic and abusive relationship that she's gotten to be her own person. And that, for me, was what was so exciting to see from Sam Humphries, was to see him continue that trend, especially since he had other runs going on at the same time, like Old Lady Harley, Harleen, and the animated series to kind of contend with. So he had to capture your attention every month in order to make sure that the story was being told. And He did that. He showed us a side of Harley that not very many people have seen, and that was Harley losing her mom. Not to spoil that, so spoiler alert. Okay, big spoiler alert. But he gives us that side of Harley that we don't always get to see, which is this raw and, very emotional side to her. And for me, that's something that I need to see in a book. Tom King did that in Heroes in Crisis, and I absolutely loved it. Say what you will about Tom King and his Catwoman bullshit shenanigans. I loved Heroes in Crisis. It was real. It was relatable. It was them mimicking and mirroring real life. And if you're able to do that, you're going to draw me in 125% of the time. What about you? What makes it for you?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I like a lot of shit in comic books. But
I know you do, but what draws you in?
Batman.
Shut the fuck up. Batman.
No, well, I'm going to use Batman as an example. Okay, because Grant Morrison had arguably one of the top 5 best runs on the comic book that anyone's ever read in their entire existence, leading all the way up to the end of the book when they restarted it with New 52. And he jumped on there, he did his thing, and it was fucking brilliant from the get-go. Okay? But at the same time, he's paying homage to the past by taking all these silly 50s stories that we read in the comic books, or some of us read in the comic books, you know, growing up or whatever have you, that, you know, defined him for a new generation to make them better. And if an author can do that, you know, take something, you know, as trivial as a different colored costume in Batman and give it a backstory in the modern sense of writing and make it real instead of just like, oh, just some kind of throw out bullshit that we're trying to fill an issue
Red shirt
with.
mentality.
Yeah. But when you do that, that becomes amazing, and it furthers the mythos that you're reading. You know, it doesn't shit on the past. It lifts it up, and it's like, hey, look, you put a shiny coat of paint on it. It's really cool, and you like this now. So I'm like, I do like this. Yes, substance. It's got substance. Then you're going to draw me in. I mean, if you're putting the characters in a peril that we haven't seen before, and I mean peril as in Peril, you know, then I'm all about it. Because when Scott Snyder started Batman with the Court of Owls storyline, every single solitary one of us that were picking up that book monthly were like, Batman's going to fucking die. He's going to fucking die, and Nightwing's going to be Batman full time. Because we'd already seen Scott Snyder write Dick Grayson Batman, and that was fucking amazing.
Yep.
So, you know, if you can do that as an author, then that's a great story, and I'm down to sit down and read it. So,
you know what?
Absolutely.
That the emotion that goes back to it. I mean, I'm gonna champion for Marvel here for a second. Listen to me, Marvel. Hear my words. Stories like the Color Sagas, where it was Daredevil yellow, Spider-Man blue, Hulk gray, Captain America white. Those were absolutely genius, and it was because you got to what made these heroes heroes. You got to their core, because at their core, they're human.
Thank you, Jeff Loeb and Tim
Yes,
Sale.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. So if you haven't read those are one of the highest recommendations I can give, because they're brilliant writing. The artwork it's poetic. I mean, it's beautiful to watch unfold. But if you can bring emotion into your work, you're gonna have anybody who wants to read a story, because if you can connect on that level, then you're done. You're golden.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of Daredevil Yellow, I had a tear in my eye.
I cried during Spider-Man Blue.
Yeah.
And I knew what happened to Gwen Stacy, damn it.
Spider-Man Blue is episode 62 of the Pull Bag. Go back and listen now.
Look at this, we're promotion. Look, yay!
Yeah, for me, it's got to be something that everybody can agree on this. I think everybody in the world can agree on this. There will always be tropes in any, like, you know, standard, like boy meets girl, that kind of that kind of stuff, kind of initial startups for whatever kind of writing you do. There's always going to be influence. There's always, you know, you look at, it just ended, as of this recording, 11 days ago, Jimmy Palmiotti's Pop Kill Kickstarter thing. You know, it's two rival soda companies. Where have we seen that before? Let's see, Coke and Pepsi in the 80s or 90s or whatever. But, you know, I mean, the point is imitation often brings you inspiration, but at the same time, you need to have something new and different. You take a look at Boom Studios and their Power Rangers run.
Yeah.
We've covered everything on this show up until we have not done Shattered Grid yet. Shattered Grid is the next thing we have to do. When I read Shattered Grid, I'm like, I actually got to interview Kyle Higgins, and one of the things he said he wanted to work on was Power Rangers. And now look, Kyle Higgins is writing Power Rangers at the time, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And all you had to tell me was an alternate version of Tommy Oliver that's evil that came from some different circumstance and has this badass costume and whatever else. I'm like, okay, sure, let's go.
Isn't that Lord Darkon?
Yeah, Lord Draken. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's it's an alternate version of Tommy though.
We
Really.
have the Funko Pop.
We do.
Yep.
Still in box.
Oh, of course. The only time you take Funkos out of the box is to take pictures, and then you put them right back in the box.
No, I've got the entire Star Wars collection of Funko Pops sitting on the wall behind me.
They're all out of their boxes.
Yep.
Well, not all of them, but most of them.
And I've got all my Batman Funko Pops out of box, but all of their boxes are nicely stored away, so I can put them back in box.
They're hidden behind glass, though, so I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna, shelve them up, that's fine. But generally,
As a rule.
You're not taking them out to play with them. You're not Lord Helmeting the situation.
Don't tell him I play with my toys. I started collecting the Star Wars Black Series figures for a little while, and Kendra's first rule when I put it in the cart at Walmart was that I'm not allowed to take it out of the box. So I abided by her rules, and luckily I did, because I just packed up all my Black Series figures.
There you go.
It's getting pain in the ass to stay current with those.
It really is.
Especially since McFarlane was like, DC toys. I'm like,
All right, so let's see here. Who are some of your favorite comic artists?
Can I go first?
Yeah, go.
All right, I'll go first. Ivan Rise.
Yes.
Anything that man touched with a Green Lantern in it was gorgeous. Norm Brayfogle, obviously, because that man was an inspiration to me as a kid growing up, learning how to draw Batman.
Yep.
Alex Ross.
Yeah.
Duh.
Absolutely.
Duh. Greg Capullo. I love that man's work. I've loved him ever since he did his first issue of X-Force back in the day. Scott McDaniel, who is probably one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet in your entire existence. His work with Chuck Dixon on Nightwing was beyond awesome. Gary Frank. I just got done reading Doomsday Clock, and his work in that was gorgeous. Just simply gorgeous. Dave Gibbons. I loved his work in the original Watchmen. To a point, Frank Miller, because I loved his Sin City stuff, but when he kind of took all the drugs in the world and started writing Batman, I kind of lost, I just kind of lost him because I couldn't follow what the fuck he was talking about. Because it was like, I'm the goddamn Batman. You said that already. Shut the fuck up and give me some new shit. But, and he was like, Master Race. And I'm like, oh, so you're a racist. Awesome, cool. Let me go do my own thing. Tim Sale, that man can do no wrong in my opinion. An oldie, but Joe Quesada, I loved his work especially back when him and Palmiotti were doing event comics with Ash. That was some of the best artwork I'd ever seen him do. And then when he teamed up with Kevin Smith on Daredevil, oh my god, that was so gorgeous. But yeah, I'll stop there because I could sit here for another hour telling you who I love art-wise. McFarlane, loved his Spider-Man. He defined how I draw Spider-Man. So big eyes, a lot of webs. Let's do this.
Yeah, I'm just going to go down the line with mine. So, let's see, who we start with? J. Scott Campbell. Absolutely love Jay's work. Nicholas Scott, Denny O'Neil, Stephen Hughes.
Denny O'Neil's right.
Well, it says that he was an artist too, and I remember him doing art.
Yes, he did. He did both.
I was gonna say I remember him
I know,
doing
but
art.
it was mostly.
It was mostly writing, but he did do some art as well.
I mean, for that matter, I think Neil Gaiman did too. And I love Neil
Yeah.
Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman never did any artwork.
Well, then
Anyway.
look, I'm just gonna name my favorite people, okay? Because apparently I'm wrong. But like, I don't know, John Romano Jr.
I love John.
Romita, forgive me. I'm gonna pronounce all your names wrong, and I'm so sorry.
His
This is my
Spider-Man,
list.
I loved his Spider-Man work so much.
Scotty Young, Mike Magnola, George Perez, Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. too.
No, you got that one right.
Ditko, hell yes to him. Will Eisner, yes, absolutely love him and his work. Neil Adams, Jim Lee, of course, who is taking a bigger step in DC himself, but I still love his work. And pretty much anybody that Ed said, I absolutely adore. Jill Thompson is one that wasn't mentioned, but I absolutely do love. And then I'm going to pronounce her name so wrong. But Lupacino, Emanuela Lupacino. Frank Cho, I love his work. His covers for Harley have been absolutely stunning.
I love his sense of humor too.
Yes, his sense of humor is hilarious. I think that's it for me. I've named like 16 people.
Yeah, because there's so many great artists, and for me it's like, oh, I'll see for me, and we'll get to this later about single issues and trades and whatever else, but for me, I generally collect trades more than single issues at this point.
Yeah.
And the greatest thing about most trades is that they will put the alternate covers that you would normally have to buy separately, the A cover, the B cover, the retail incentive, the this cover, the that cover, whatever you want to call it cover.
Right.
Well, most companies and most publishers put them in the trades, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that cover. I absolutely love that. Or, oh, I saw that cover and wanted to get that in a book. And, oh, look, here it is in my trade. And I'll be like, oh, who's the artist? Oh, that's the artist. I like their stuff. They got good stuff. Let me go find more stuff from that person's stuff.
Right?
That's generally how it goes.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. All right. What'd you say, Ed?
That's how I found David Finch.
Yes.
I started
even bring up Finch.
I started watching him when he started with Top Cow doing Cyberforce, and then he did his own book called Ascension. And then you didn't see him for like a long ass time, and he showed back up, and he was like, "I'm fucking drawing DC," and I'm like, "Okay."
Oh my gosh, I forgot. Stjepan Sajic. I believe that is how you pronounce his name. I absolutely worship the ground that he and his wife walk on, because their art is so fucking fascinating.
Joe Madriero.
Yes, Joe Mad. Yes.
Sorry.
And then, because Stephen Hughes is one of mine, and sadly, you guys were right. He did pass away in 2000, which is probably why we haven't seen Lady Death the way that I'm used to seeing Lady Death. But him, and there's one that a lot of people hopefully will remember, because his personality was such that you don't forget him very easily. But absolutely one of my biggest inspirations is Jeremy Dale. And
oh yeah,
I loved that man. He was so kind to me when I was starting out, and it broke my heart when everything went down the way it did and he passed away. But he definitely deserves respect put on his name, because his drawing style was whimsical and just beautifully done. So there's mine. I'm done now.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop because I got like 50 more already in the back of my head. It's like this guy, and this guy, and this girl, and this guy, and this guy.
Okay, I'm not even gonna say what's on my mind. All right, do you have a favorite non-superhero title?
Favorite non-superhero, Beast of Burden.
Sin City.
Oh, that was a good one too.
Yeah, because It was funny. I started reading this when I lived in Minnesota, and I started picking up the trades. And I had seen the movie just prior to starting reading the books. And when I'm reading the books, there's everybody that's doing dialogue in my head is from the movies. So it was glorious.
That's like me when I read Turtles. I hear Rob Paulson, Barry Gordon, oh God, I can't believe I'm blanking. Cam Clark and Townsend Coleman. I hear 87 even though they're completely, but I hear when I haven't read it yet, but I've read some previews of Shredder in Hell that they did. I'm like, oh my God, it's like James Avery is in my head because he was the voice of Shredder.
Yeah.
It's like Kevin Conroy and
Batman.
Mark Hamill for me, because that's the voices I hear. And what's his name from Breaking Bad?
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Cranston.
Yes, Bryan Cranston.
That's the voice I hear when I hear Gordon talk, because of Batman Year One. They were like, "You got Bryan Cranston to be Gordon." I'm like, "You son of a bitch, I'm in."
I still love Bob Hastings from the animated series, and
yes,
don't get me wrong, I love that too.
Absolutely, and it's so weird. As I know, there are multiple versions of Alfred. There have always been multiple versions of Alfred. When I'm reading Alfred in the comics, doesn't matter if it's New 52 or the previous unit, whatever it is, or even now Rebirth, it's like there's one voice I hear in my head. As much as I respect and love all the other actors between Michael Goff and Michael Caine and 66 Alan something. Anyway, I only hear Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. in my head for Alfred. This is just the way it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what's next. What is your favorite run of a series? So if there's like, for example, in New 52, Batman, Snyder had Court of Owls, he had Death in the Family. So what's your favorite story arc or series run from a series?
You want to go first, or should I?
Yeah, you go first, because I'm having an issue with that one.
Snyder's run on New 52 Batman. I'm going to say that very simply because, yes, it's broken into different chapters, but it's all one story. Mm-hmm. And if you read every volume of it, every issue of it leading up to Rebirth, or was it? No, it was Death Metal. Or Metal.
Metal, yeah.
Metal was the last thing that transitioned him into the Rebirth suit. You see Scott Snyder laying groundwork for shit he's going to do 10 years later in the books. Yeah. And it was amazing.
I know, it's my turn. This one's hard, though, because I'm thinking of everything that I've read, and it's really hard for me to pin down a favorite. Like, if I were looking at it through the scope of what I recommend it based on just that story arc, I mean, honestly, Sejep and Sajak's Harleen is probably my favorite, but it's an all-contained story. It's not necessarily a part of an ongoing. Shit, that one's hard.
For me, if I was gonna pick one, it's because I'm gonna say it this way, but I'm not like this. I basically stalk Kyle Higgins' work any chance I can get to read his stuff.
I really hope he does. Kyle, you're listening. Restraining order, my friend.
No. I'm too lazy for any of that real, actual work. You kidding me? Digital stalking. Oh, Lord. But it's there you go. Digital stalking, folks. It's the new thing. Don't do it.
Bingo.
No, but like, if I'm, as much as I love his entire New 52 Nightwing run, the arc I love the most is when he took Nightwing out of Gotham because it was different. He sent him to Chicago, and it was cool, and it was interesting, and it was mysterious, and it was fun. So, yeah.
See, and that's why I think mine's so hard. I did not start reading.
Actually, I could tell you your favorite one.
What is mine? Tell me.
Old Lady Club.
But that's still a self-contained fucking
It's
story.
in the middle of the road now.
No, it's not. It's literally a side story. You shut up. Because I don't, until I started rereading Harley and doing the series with Sam Humphries, I didn't really do full runs and ongoing series. And with the Harley ongoing, it jumps around so much that it's not really that there's an arc that caught me. I mean, yes, I loved them, but they weren't like, here, come with me. But all of mine, that's the problem. All of mine are usually like self-contained stories instead of ongoing. If I had to throw one out there that has caught me recently, that is an arc that I like, it's October Faction by Steve Niles, and I forget the artist's name off the top of my head. But it was one that grabbed me at the comic shop, and so far I'm loving every bit of it. Like, it has grabbed me in a way. It's like this really awesome mix of the Addams Family and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It is an amazing experience so far, and watching that one unfold has been brilliant. So that's mine. Mine is October Faction.
I just realized.
There you go.
Alan Moore in the middle of
Yeah, we said Alan Moore. Alan Moore is one of the best writers.
Ever.
There, we side noted that.
There you go.
Edit that one in.
We're just all over the place. I'm so sorry, Mike.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right. Yes. You know. All right. What is one comic you can read over and over again, single issue or trade?
Arlene.
Watchmen.
There you go.
Every time that I read Watchmen, I find something new in it that I didn't read or didn't notice before.
I just love Sajik's take on Harley. I think it's absolutely stunning.
Yep. Now, generally, folks, we try to be positive on this show, but there are some negative questions because, yeah, you kind of have to have those for the other side of the coin. Are there comics you avoid altogether? Like, is there a series you just don't, like, you looked at it and it's like, nope, that's not for me. Like, you're not judging the series. You're just like, that isn't my thing.
Yeah, I have one of those. Mine is Usagi Yojimbo.
Really?
The new one.
Oh.
Not the original, the new one. I had picked it up because I also do reviews for Fantastic Universes, and when I was picking up Yondu, I saw Usagi Yojimbo, and I love that character. I've always been a fan of the bunny, because I'm a bunny. I'm a Chinese zodiac bunny. So I usually key in on things with bunnies in it. And I just couldn't get past the artwork. I couldn't do it. I tried really, really hard because I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it. And I couldn't. I couldn't get past the artwork. It muddied it up for me in a way where I was just like, you know what, this isn't my thing. And I mean, I'm not talking I bought 1 or 2 issues. I bought 5 issues because I had the plan to get into it and to love it, because I haven't found one yet that I hadn't. And that one is the one that is my naysayer.
Mm.
I couldn't do it. Shit.
Yeah, I got something.
Ha! About time one of them got you. Shit.
I'm gonna get so much flack for saying this.
I'm waiting on the people for Usagi Yojimbo to come from my ass.
Superman.
Superman.
I don't like the Man of Steel. I mean, I did for a while when he died. I thought that was a great story.
I liked him as long as he's dead.
Well, no, because, I mean, I started collecting Superman, Action Comics, Man of Steel, Man of Tomorrow, and whatever the other fucking one was that they had. They had like 5 books going for just Superman, like they did everybody. But when the Doomsday arc hit, I started picking all that up, and it was really great. And then the Reign of the Superman was amazing. And then the Return of Superman was really great. And then there was, I collected the book for about a good another 4 years after that. And I'm just like, what do you do? What do you do with this character now to make it fresh and original? And yeah, nothing came to mind. I'm like,
you put him in a 1950s. You put him in a 1950s comedy television series. That's what you do.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But I mean, I sat down just recently and watched the Superman Man of Tomorrow animated movie, and that was great. And I had just finished watching Superman Red Sun. Again, that was great. But I'm not going to pick up Superman's monthly book because, one, he's too OP. I don't give a fuck who you are. He's too OP. And you just can't. There's one dude in the whole DCU who put him in jeopardy, and that's Batman. Well, and Lex Luthor too, but still, that's beside the point. But I just don't care. I mean, it's not against the writers. It's not against the artists, because God knows they've had some amazing talent coming through that book. I mean, Dan Jurgens, John Bogdanov, who was doing the Man of Steel run for like the entirety of the damn book's run. Man was tireless, but I can't get into Superman. I don't know. I don't know. Just can't get into Superman.
I thought I was going to get flack for Usagi Yojimbo. You're coming after one of the Trinity.
I understand that, but at least Wonder Woman's well written. Now, at least Batman's interesting. Hey, you can't deny Batman.
I can't deny Batman.
You're picking up Batman.
I am. I started with number 92. So I can't say shit because I am reading Batman.
And then Jeff Johns came out of left field and was like, hey, you like Green Lantern again? I'm like, I like Green Lantern again. Holy, what? Rebirth. The entirety of his regular run on the book up to New 52 and including the New 52 shit. I'm just like, oh, wait, so Green Lantern didn't apply in the New 52? Okay. I'm fine with that because the writing is really good. Sorry.
All right. So, similar to the last question about avoiding certain comics, are there any comics in the past or currently that you wish you hadn't read them?
Oh, shit. Usagi Yojimbo.
Okay.
I really don't have that many that I don't like. Like, that's the problem. I usually find some redeemable quality in everything that I read, but that book, I couldn't do it.
Dude, I'm gonna get so much hate for it.
Go.
Uh-oh.
Let you get your hate. I'm going to say my little bitty Usagi, and then I'm moving.
Okay. Brace yourselves.
I'm braced.
V for Vendetta.
Oh my god.
And it's not about the writing, because the writing was Alan Moore was fucking genius. The art looked like shit. I mean, I'm gonna get so much shit for this, and I'm prepared for it mentally, I think. But it literally looked like a 6-year-old drew that book, and oh my god, I regret ever reading it because the artwork was so bad. I was like, give me an audiobook. I don't need to fucking see the artwork. Oh wait, Wachowski's did a fucking take on the movie, which was really good because you got Hugo Weaving.
Yes.
You know, who hasn't tried to do the fucking V monologue? But then again, I can't stand the art in the comic books, and I feel so bad about saying that because it's a legendary book. It's right up there with Watchmen, and The Dark Knight Returns is one of the biggest books in the universe. So, I'm gonna get so much hate.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Like, you like what you like. You don't like what you don't like. It just like.
Right, we're not toxic fans. We just didn't like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're.
I'm not on social media like fucking this guy's world up because he drew a shitty comic.
You're not sending comic artists death threats because you're not that dumb and you're not that disrespectful.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, just because you don't like something, like, all right, again, and listeners, I know I've brought this up a lot. For the last 20 years, I've been a Nickelback fan. No one in my entire circle, except maybe 3 people, are actually, Nickelback fans along with me. So it's
I like
Nickelback,
you know what? I just don't like their front man.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
No, that's fine. I can appreciate their music. I just don't like him. I think he's a little bit of a turd. So.
How large or small is your physical comic book collection?
Ridiculously large.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
If we had to probably throw a number out there, we're probably at a total of about 1,200 books.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Trade.
Well, that's good. If that was single issue, I'd be worried.
That's what I said. It wasn't for lack of trying. I mean, we have a pretty good extension of not only DC Marvel, but we're working diligently on our indie trades as well, like in the smaller companies like Dark Horse, IDW, and all of them. I mean, we're trying.
I would really like to get a hold of the Spawn Origins books.
Yes.
But I know that I would have to sell off my children in order to do it, and I'm not so
not an option.
Kendra would not forgive me for getting rid of the kids for some Spawn comics.
No.
Well, you don't necessarily have to get rid of them. You could just rent them out. That's what children are for, is heavy labor.
You need your trash taken out? Give me a minute.
You got Spawn Origins #1? Let's do this.
Exactly.
No, but I mean, we've got a pretty healthy collection. I mean, I'm a bibliophile, so we have a room in our house that is dedicated to nothing but books, and I mean absolutely nothing but books, because I'm pretty close to about 2,000 to 3,000 novels at this point. And when it comes to our comics, I mean, we've basically over the years just picked up ones that have called to us and ones that we knew that we wanted to have in our collection, and that's an ongoing process.
Still doing it to this day. Because damn it, I've got holes in my Green Lantern collection.
You don't want any holes in your Green Lantern.
Hell no, especially not in my John's run. Damn.
But I mean, there's just it goes back to your question about whether you'd rather have the physical or the digital copy. Some things
Exactly.
I'm perfectly fine with having in the digital format because I just want to read it. It's not necessarily something that I want to have in my collection, but I definitely want to be able to say, hey, I read that too. So I can have an informed discussion with people. But there are some books that we absolutely want to have the full runs of because the stories were just that massively great. They were memorable, and they're stuff that we like to go back to.
Yes.
Exactly. Now, if you want to start reading the IDW Turtles comic, how I suggest you do it is, as much as I want to pimp out digitally and pimp out Comixology, because I pimp them out every episode of this show.
And you should. They're doing wonderful things.
Exactly. However, with the IDW Turtles comics, you get the IDW Turtle collections, which is the hardcovers, because in those, they are printed in story order. So let's say issues, City Fall was, I'm trying to think, City Fall was 25 to 28, 20. Anyway, basically you take, let's say, the first 5, 6, or 7 issues, and that's a whole arc. And then they might do a mini series or a micro series or a macro series. It's assembled in the hardcover collections as it's basically timeline order. So
the whole continuity of it, that's cool.
Exactly. That's what's so great about the IDW Turtle hardcover IDW collection books, is because it's not like, I remember when I was buying these physically, I'm like, okay, well, when does this happen and this happen? Oh, I have to buy this trade and this trade and this trade. And I'm like, can't they all just be in one? And then obviously they, you have the hardcover collections. All right. Okay, so this is a question that has been going on for the last 7 years for this show. Now, this is, heaven forbid the house is on fire, but everybody is safe. What's the one comic you could never live without ever? Basically, what's the one comic you'd run back into the fire to save?
I can answer this.
This is mine. Ladies first. I think ours are both going to be the same, but we have Kingdom Come, and it's not just a normal Kingdom Come, because we have both Mark Waid and Alex Ross signatures on this, because one came from one of the 3 cons Alex Ross has ever gone to, and Mark Waid we got to meet personally. So if we were going to run back in and save anything, it's going to be that book.
Yep.
There.
That's our goal.
That is the holy grail of our collection.
There you go.
Even Mark Waid said it's like the Holy Grail now that we had both signatures on it.
Yeah, because he brought that up while we were talking with him and his wife at the con, because he was like, Alex doesn't come out to cons very often, so to have anything signed by him alone is a huge accomplishment. But to have both him and Mark Waid on Kingdom Come, it's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. What was the most?
I would try and drag my Batman shelf out too.
Yeah, we would drag the Bat shelf.
What was the most money you spent on a comic or comic item?
Oh God. Damn, collectively or like on one specific?
Just anything. Like.
That's a damn good question.
Actually, no mine. Right
I know you do. I don't know the most money I've spent. I mean, I know I've had some collector's editions in the 40s and 50s, but I think that's probably the most I've spent on one singular book. Is $40 to $50.
Mine was Kamiko Primer #2. First appearance of Grendel by Matt Wagner. I spent $80 on that one single issue, and then it was sold out from underneath me by my ex-wife.
Oh no!
Yeah, along with the rest of my Grendel collection. It was so sad.
Man.
I'm still heartbroken this day.
Man.
Anyways, moving on.
That's crazy.
It was easy, but it was hard to remember that.
Yeah.
Like traumatized. I couldn't even form words.
So, was there ever a moment when you were done with comics, like that you stepped away for a while?
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Mine was New 52.
Oh Lord.
So was mine.
So was yours. I was about to say, New 52 did it for both of us. So it wasn't just me. But yeah, the Wonder Woman fiasco was a heartbreaker. It was a deal breaker for me. And I think that it hit so hard because just like really recently too, the New 52 was Wonder Woman issue 600. And it featured and showcased her new costume. It was Wonder Woman finally wearing pants as part of her costume. And I fell in love with that idea. I was like, holy shit, this is great. This is great. Like, I love it. It's so much more functional. I love it. Let's do it. And I went out and got that comic. And shortly after, it was like, hey, I got the New 52. Do you want to sit down and read it? And I was like, all right, sure. And I literally got to that page. And I was just like, no. And I shut the book and I walked away for, years. We're not talking a couple months or just a little short span of time. I walked away for years. I was like, you know what? I don't want anything to do with that. And I didn't start back up until about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as her. I sat on the sidelines and read the news and shit like that about, what was going on in the comic verse and everything, and, put up my 2 cents on social media about it, And I will say this too, that I've eaten my share of crow for, shitting on something before I read it, aka Doomsday Clock, because they were like, oh, Dr. Manhattan created the New 52 and this and that and the third, and I'm like, y'all are trying too hard. Leave me alone. And then I sat down and read Jeff Johns' Doomsday Clock, and I was like, holy shit, fuck, I'm an asshole. Because I will say this, and I didn't read Doomsday Clock as it was coming out. I went out and forked over the money to buy the twin hardcover set. Mm-hmm. And
at whose recommendation?
At yours.
You're welcome.
And I sat down and read it in 3 sittings for both books. Actually lost time in the middle of reading it, and I was just like, this was genius. Every panel, every word was an homage to Alan Moore, but it was, Watchmen and fucking DC like having this awesome baby, and I was just like, okay, I retract my previous statement. This was fucking a brilliant idea. So, but yeah, New 52. I don't remember what it was that stopped me from reading. I think it was actually the fact that we were broke and just couldn't afford it. No, I had gotten back into gaming.
Yeah.
And gaming is an expensive habit, as anybody knows.
We had to make choices.
So I did the adult thing, and I was like, I want to play video games at a time. And stopped comic books for a while.
So this had no malice intent. Mine really wasn't malice intent either, but it was it left a bad taste in my mouth, and I was just like, you know what? I just don't even care. I don't care. It took away my care.
And I meant to ask you earlier, for those of us who haven't read the Wonder Woman thing, what's the context of the whole thing that turned you off to it? Like, what's going on in that issue that?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
So with this one, with New 52. When you're first introduced to Diana, she's come into America for the first time and into civilization, I guess, outside of Themyscira. And she's in Washington. And literally it's just a picture of her coming up to this little girl in her full regalia. And she's like, the little girl's, eating a vanilla ice cream cone that's from one of the street vendors.
Right.
Strawberry ice cream cone. I don't really give a fuck what the damn ice cream
whatever the flavor is.
It's not. It doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things.
Right.
But she's basically eating ice cream, and Diana asks her what it is, and the little girl's like, "Oh, well, it's ice cream. Who hasn't heard of ice cream?" And Diana literally says, "What is ice cream?" And I'm just like, "What the fuck?"
Actually, no. What the page that really did it for you was the next page where she holds her fucking sword aloft in the air like she's goddamn He-Man. And whoever created this magnificent concoction.
Yeah. That one was kind of the big. I think that if they hadn't have had that, I probably would have continued reading. But then she just makes this big, ridiculous damn deal over ice cream, and it was like trying to watch a Will Ferrell movie where there's just this over exuberance for no fucking reason, and it was like playing a scene in my head with overacting, and it just, for me, it was so distasteful to a character who deserved far more respect than that. They could have done a New 52 without reverting her to somebody who'd never even seen ice cream. So, yeah.
But I agree. The only problem is Themyscira is a tropical island. Ice cream would melt a lot faster.
Yeah, but they also have the technology to make a purple death ray cannon.
So they can't have ice cream?
I'm sure they can make a freezer.
Right?
I don't know.
It was just one of those. I mean, literally.
No, absolutely, yeah.
I was like, no. I want nothing more to do with this, because I'll admit, as a fan, I was like, oh, okay, so they're rebooting everything again. What's going to happen? And reading it, I was just like, it was a letdown for me as a fan, because
Jeff Jones, of all people.
I just didn't, there was no reason to go that far back and to ruin this years of continuity of building her up as a character. I don't want to play sexism into it, but for the females who were reading that, we expected more. Wonder Woman is one of the very few female characters who's put on a platter and is put on a pedestal to us. So to see her get basically thrown all the way back to the beginning of everything after watching her be built up and have fucking pants, damn it. It was a letdown. So that was why it stopped me in my tracks. I was just like, they took away my care a lot. I turned into a great grumpy Care Bear.
All right, now we've mentioned some of the things that you recommend already, but what are you reading right now, and what do you think our listeners should check out?
Three Jokers absolutely should be picked up. It is immensely amazing already. The lead up to the Joker War has been fascinating to watch, even though I had reservations about Punchline. Those are gone. Let's see. Obviously, I'm going to recommend Harley Quinn. Anything in the Harley Quinn universe that has come out within the last 2 years, including Old Lady Harley, Harleen, the Black, White, and Reds little mini series that's really, really great. Beast of Burden is absolutely on the top of my list of things that should be recommended. I just finished The Last Amazon. That one is by Apotheosis Studios. That one should be read. There's one in the indie that is done. It's Symphonic Universe or Symphonic Verses, and it is a really good one. I forget what studio. I think it's Second Sight Studios that's doing that one. It's really, really good. What else am I reading? I read so freaking many. The Question is really good, especially since it's got some of the original artists on it. Writings by Jeff Lemire. Absolutely fascinating. Love it. It is not for children. It is Black Label. Anything, honestly, in the Black Label section, I recommend with a heavy head tilt.
Except for Batman Damned.
I was there for Bat Dick, so I
See, it's not about Bat Dong, though. Because I bought the hardcover, and I sat down and read this damn thing. I was excited to I even put my glasses on to read this damn thing. And I got to the end of it, and I'm like, where the fuck is the end of the story? It doesn't fucking end. Where the fuck is the rest? Sorry.
You're right. I didn't read Damned. I read the first issue, and that's all I got. So I was fully there to see DC do this, because that was something that definitely caught my eye. I was like, oh, wait, what? We're doing what? Okay. I'm here. Poof, we're in Narnia. Let's do it. But, I mean, I'm reading the Nancy Drew Sleeping Beauties. Honestly, anything that's coming out right now is pretty damn fantastic. I mean, it's a lot to say that, because there's so much that's coming out, but it's not even October yet, and that's when the real shit's going to hit the fan, because I'm going to be a broke bitch in October. Because then we've got American Vampire coming back with Scott Snyder doing the writing. We've got isn't Watchmen doing their Rorschach?
Oh, fuck, the Rorschach series.
So
yeah.
October is a busy month. I'm here for it. But I think I've listed like almost everything that I'm reading. So I'm just gonna pass it to you.
I'm reading Three Jokers. That's brilliant. Again, Jeff Johns, artwork by Jason Fabok, and it's amazing. Death Metal, Dark Knight's Death Metal. I'm reading that for DC.
I am too.
Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo coming back on that one, and anything where I get to read more Batman Who Laughs, I'm all about that shit. Actually, I'm just going back through and reading older stuff now. I highly recommend anybody that hasn't read it to read Doomsday Clock, especially if you were like even the most remote Watchmen fan or remote DC fan. You owe it to yourself to read this, because Jeff Johns knocked it out of the fucking park again, man.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool.
My list is shorter than hers because, I don't know, I'm reading Joker War with her, and that's been really good. And
to be fair, mine are ones that I'm reviewing. So
I'm trying not to go back to like City of Bane, because they killed Alfred, and I can't handle that right now. You don't fucking kill Alfred, man. Alfred's my boy.
You're my boy, Boo.
Right?
Except for, Gotham Alfred. That Alfred can die.
Yeah, I stopped watching that shit in season 2. I saw their shitty ass interpretation of Bane, and I was like, what the fuck is he, Darth Nellis or some shit? Is this Malgus over here? I mean, alright, I see you for Star Wars, but this is not Batman.
I think I finally stopped at like season 3, but I picked it back up at like season 5 to see the end of it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Alright. Heroes, heroines, anti-heroes, heroines, or villains. What archetypes are your go-to reads?
Yes.
Oh, hell. I like a mix of all. I mean, I think that any good story does take a mix of everything, and that sometimes it's not always as black and white as good or bad. And I really enjoy stories that like crossing the gray line. So mine's going to be all.
Yeah, I'm going to second that one because, I mean, I love a good villain. I mean, if it's well written, all right, there's two villains to me. There's Lex Luthor from the fucking DC universe, and there's Doctor Doom. If you can write those two characters really well, I will read that shit. But at the same time, I love the heroes. You know, Batman, Green Lantern, The Flash. You know, fucking Spider-Man, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider. You know, I do tend towards the darker heroes. So your anti-heroes like Spawn,
Punisher,
Moon Knight, Punisher. You know, but I read it all because they're all part of the interest. You know what I'm saying? It's not just one or the other. I'm not just going to read Batman for Batman because you don't read Batman for Batman because he's an asshole. You read Batman for villains because the villains are fucking cool. And I mean, like, take Mr. Freeze, for example. One of the most tragic backstories ever in a villain. I can't even rightly call him a villain.
Yeah, no.
He's not. He's just a dude who's trying to save his wife's life, and he got fucked up in an accident.
Hell, even the Harley Quinn animated, spoiler. Even the Harley Quinn animated series couldn't really justifiably use him as a villain. And his main episode where he is showcased Falling Hearts. I mean, they couldn't even make him a villain if they tried. Like, I mean, King Shark says it best in that episode. He's like, you just killed the most woke person in all of Gotham. So, I mean, you can't. Like, but that's what makes stories great, is you have to have a variety of characters because, unfortunately, life is not all black and white. It's not. You have to be able to look into the gray and see that not everything is as it seems. And stories that can do that and characters that can do that are some of the best ones.
So,
absolutely. Yeah, it's like, you know, Tony always said, throw a little Hot Rod Red in there.
Right?
All right, so this question comes from... It came from an old podcast I used to do because I always had this story. It's my parents got rid of my toys story. So the question is, do you have a my parents got rid of my comics story? So for you guys, because the listeners have heard this for the last 12 years, when I was 6 years old, my dad said, I don't know why I did this. I have no idea. It was subconscious, whatever. I had all my good guys, all my Masters of the Universe characters, He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, all of those toys, plus Castle Grayskull at my mom's house. I had all the villains, Skeletor, all that, Snake Mountain, the Slime Pit, had all of that at my dad's house because I come from divorced parents. I don't know why, have no clue. But one day, I went to my dad's house in Rhode Island, and my toys were gone. What I remember, and I'm probably misremembering this, but what I remember him saying is, I sold them, you're 6, you're too old for toys. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
So the question is,
going to be,
do you have a parents got rid of? Yeah. Do you have a parent? My parents got rid of my comics story.
Yes. So, like I said, my uncle had supported my getting into comics, and shortly after, he had given me a milk carton full of all of the comics that he had. He was like, you know what, you pick out which ones you want, I'll let you take them home. Mm-hmm. And my mom, because I mean, I don't come from a divorced house. I come from legitimately what you would see in the dictionary as a broken home. My mom did not understand why I would want to keep those comics. Now, granted, looking back as an adult, there were some that were in there that were not age appropriate, because I had some of the original Cherry comics that are definitely not for children. And at this point, I'm like 11 or 12 years old, so not necessarily in the best place to have comics like those. Granted, I was reading Stephen King, so I was a little ahead of my age group, but she took them, or she had me grab them and threw them into the dumpster. And I spent the next 20 minutes trying to sneak out of the house and climb into this dumpster to try and get whichever ones I could that meant the most to me. And for that, it was Lady Death. But yeah, my mom gave no fucks. Like, she was just like, you know what, I don't even want to hear it. I don't care. They're in the trash. So yes, I've had that moment of desperation trying to get back something that I love that my parents were just like, no.
Mine is not my mom or dad. I mean, they did that shit anyways when I was a kid. Threw away toys without asking or whatever have you. I was young and didn't care at that point because I was like, I can get more toys. Mine actually took place after my first divorce. And wife and I had split up, and we shared a storage unit. And I packed away all of my McFarlane Toys action figures, my DVD collection, about 3/4 of my comic collection, books, everything. And I moved into a friend's house. We went over to the storage unit, got a few boxes of comics out of there because I wanted to read some comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back about a week later to go try and get the rest of the comics out of there because I'm like, you know what, fuck this. I don't want my comics to get fucked up. I want my comics back.
Yep.
And I went over there, and my ex-wife had sold everything in the storage unit.
Oh no.
For $150.
That's what? Wow.
She sold roughly 300 DVDs.
Oh shit.
About 5 or 6 good sized boxes of novels, mostly Star Wars books.
Damn.
About 8 or 9 long boxes. All of my Image collection, Dark Horse, all that was gone. I had my Batman. I had my Batman and my Detective Comics, so I was okay. And Spawn and Green Lantern. I had all those. I had every McFarlane toy figure that had come out up to that point, and this was after the 3rd or 4th line of Movie Maniacs figures that had come out. So I had like 6 boxes of McFarlane toys, random other action figures. Yeah, that was a bad day. It was a really bad day.
Man, all I can think of is Dave Hester got a steal there, didn't he?
Right. I was so pissed, dude. So pissed.
I would imagine so.
Pissed actually isn't even the appropriate verbiage for what I was. My friends actually had to lock me in my room because I was about to go to my ex-wife's house and fuck her up for. Not that I hit women.
Right. We understand the. Yep.
But my emotions were very high that day.
Yeah, off the scale.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's not
that
good.
Kendra, vast majority of that stuff. I mean, newer versions of that stuff. I have gotten again. I now have an even bigger collection of Star Wars novels.
That was crazy.
There you go.
Yeah, she bought me like 300 Star Wars novels for Christmas.
Oh my God.
I got a damn good deal on those though.
She did. She got a hell of a deal on the boxes. Excuse me. But that was a hell of a Christmas present. I still haven't even dented the books at all yet because I'm still stuck on my Grand Admiral Thrawn books.
Very cool.
All
right. That's all we can pray for, right?
Right.
What is one item from a comic book you'd love to have in the real world? So, Jimmy's signal watch, Hal's ring, Batman's batarang, that kind of thing.
Oh, God. There are so many options. But I think that in my heart of hearts, what I would love to have is there's a character in Beast of Burden, and his name is Rex, and he's a Doberman. Because just to put it out there so everybody understands, Beast of Burden does not have very many human voices in it.
Okay.
It is from the point of view of dogs and cats. And I think that if I were able to bring anything into my world from a comic book, I would bring Rex. Because Rex comes from a very broken home. He is an abused dog. His owner is a drunk. And for me, my heart would be like, you belong here in our house with our zoo of crazy animals. But you know what? To be fair, it wouldn't even have to be Beast of Burden, because even if I were to look into the main continuity, I would have Ace the Bat Hound in an instant. I would have Rico. I would have Streaky. I would even have, I don't even remember what the name of the cow is, but I would have the cow, the super cow. I would have it, and the horse. That's where my heart lies. I wouldn't want things for power. I wouldn't want things for the ability to control people or to read their minds. I would just want all of the animals in my home.
Mine's easy. I want a fucking lightsaber.
Okay, all right. So you want a lightsaber. What color lightsaber do you want?
Red.
Oh.
All day, every day, and twice on Sunday.
The correct answer is purple, because ain't nobody like Mace Windu.
Yeah, because it's the one that says bad motherfucker on the side of it.
That's right.
Well, I would want Ahsoka's blades.
Yeah. Well, I'd want Darth Revan's lightsabers. He had two, one of which was purple.
Oh, there you go.
So
there you go, red and purple.
Oh yeah.
There you go. He's got Skittle sabers. Grape and strawberry.
Taste the rainbow, bitches.
That's right. If you could create any comic storyline, what would you want to create, and what characters would you want to create it with? Now, this is basically if DC hired you guys and said, here's Harley, do what you want. What would you want to create?
I would actually, even though you would think my answer would be Harley, I would want Zatanna's storyline. And I would want to do a throwback to her and Bruce Wayne when they were kids, and go through the storyline in an Elseworld style novel showing them being together versus him and Selina. Because in my heart of hearts, that's who I see Batman with, is Zatanna. So that's what I would do.
It's funny that you asked this question, because the 14 notebooks that I have with the story written in it tell me that I've already done this. Batman. I'd want Batman for about 4.5 years of Batman and Detective Comics. And I could put out an amazing arc that I can't really get into because it's long. I mean,
well, it's not that it's long, but you don't want people to steal the idea. And if a writer heard this,
an old buddy of mine that I used to hang out with in Virginia Beach, and my brother-in-law, we used to sit out in the garage because we couldn't smoke in the house, and I'm a smoker. We used to sit out in the garage every night after work and sit around and bullshit and create. We created what we lovingly referred to as DC2, which was a mirror universe of the current DC universe, but just picked up and we ran with it. I mean, like every fucking character that you can think of, they were there, they did some shit, they got fucked up, they got killed, whatever. I mean, we had stories. But Batman, I watched Batman Begins in theaters with my ex-wife and my daughter. And then I picked up Batman Hush. Never read it before, and it blew me the fuck away. And immediately called my best friend. I'm like, dude, I got this idea for a Batman story, but I don't want to stop writing after I get done with it. And he's like, don't. So for about 3 years, I worked on this Batman story, and yeah, it would be the shit.
There you go. Very cool, very cool. All right, final question, question 25. We made it, yay!
Woohoo!
What is the one piece of advice you would give the comics fandom?
Oh gosh. The one piece of advice. You know what? The one piece of advice for me is going to be super easy. It is to go into a comic book store and ask for recommendations. You know, if you have a story that you love, be supportive of it. Even if it changes hands, give it a chance. I mean, yeah, you may not like it, but I mean, at least do justice to it and give it a chance. And know, like what we said earlier, that while you may not like it, there is a market for that, and somebody out there is being inspired, like you were when you first picked up a comic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my advice. Don't be afraid of trying something new, and definitely don't be afraid of something new happening in continuity, because everybody deserves to have that initial feeling that you did when you read your first great story. So that's my advice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I can go a couple ways with this. Just fucking read comics, man.
Yes, comic.
You know, go to the fucking store, like she said, get a recommendation. But I'm gonna add an addendum to that. Don't be an asshole about it, because Jesus Christ, the fan base lately, at least in the last 4 or 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
it's become the most toxic I've ever seen. You know, get off your fucking Apple box, read your comic books, man. Shut the fuck up.
That's
Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the same thing I say at I kind of answer this question to kind of close out the show, even though we have an outro and all that stuff that I'll do. But for me, the one piece of advice that I give the comics fandom is that everyone has a place in comics. Everyone has likes, everyone has dislikes. Nobody has to like. The fact that Ed doesn't like Superman doesn't stop every other Superman superfan that I know from loving Superman. Just because one person doesn't like it doesn't mean that you have to not like it too. There's a place for everybody. There's comics for everybody. There's so many different comics. So it's all about. I personally think comics should bring people together, and I personally think that the comics fandom should be inclusive, not exclusive.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yep. 100% on board.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Where can the people find you guys online?
Where can't you is a shorter list. I'm fucking everywhere. I mean, honestly, for me, if you really want to reach out and talk to me, Twitter's probably going to be the best place, because I'm really, really closed off with my Facebook. Twitter is Devour All Words. And I mean, I do reviews for Fantastic You. I'm over in the UK on Earth 9. I have Dark Knight news, DC Comics news. I do podcasts that you can find on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. I mean, I do reviews for Gothic Bite magazine. We occasionally get to jump on with Jeremy over at Hunnick Outcast, and we get to shoot the shit with him and just have a conversation. And that's really how me and Ed view life, is it's a conversation. So if you have something that you want to say, or if you want to discuss anything with me, please feel free to stop by on Devour All Words. Or if you're really feeling feisty and froggy, you can find me on Facebook at Kendra Hale.
Facebook at Edward Hale. Instagram, BatEd700. YouTube, I've been posting clips of playing Call of Duty. You can find me at Sith Rules Ed there.
You really should be posting clips of you playing like Arkham City or something, Mr. Batman.
I just got a 2 terabyte hard drive for my PlayStation 4, so now I have 37 games installed on it.
Oh boy.
So now I can do that stuff, and that's actually been my intention. Just got done playing through Ghost of Tsushima. And that was absolutely brilliant. And I was posting clips of that too, though, while I was playing through it. Like I said, Twitter, didn't I?
I think so.
Twitter, BadEd700, Instagram, Sith Rules, or The Sith Rules, excuse me. But yeah, that's about all my social media.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we left anything out.
Very cool, very cool. All right. Thank you for joining us here inside the Pull Bag. If you'd like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on this and all of our other posts from the last 12 years. Here are all the ways you can listen to us nowadays. Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, and of course, the home where our files exist, Spreaker, and any other podcatching client you have. Leave the show's feedback in iTunes. Hopefully, we get some new iTunes reviews. I don't know if we have or not, because I can't check them right now. Well, I have a Galaxy, and there's no iTunes store on a Samsung
Fair
phone,
enough.
sadly. It's not like I have my computer, which is back in storage in Illinois, sadly. I was a dumbass. And anyway, I already did that. Follow us on Twitter at Geekcast Radio is the network, at the Pull Bag is the podcast. I am at TFG1Mike. They gave their Twitters already. Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network. And you can also find the Pull Bag over there as well. For now, I am TFG1Mike, all hailing the Hales in this episode of the Pull Bag. As always, make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time.
You've just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, the GCRN's first comic review and discussion podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate and leave a review for the show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Become a fan of us on Facebook, facebook.com/thepullbag. Send us an email, feedback at geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at thepullbag and at geekcastradio. So until next time, make your great escape into comics and unleash the geek in you.